of the year, I would not want to be playing the Chargers.
San Diego has won the toss, and they will defer, which means Detroit will get their hands on the football first. Stefan Logan is deep, and we are underway. Logan, 3 yards deep in the end zone. 20. Out to the 25, the 26-yard line. So here comes Matthew Stafford, and what a difference a healthy Matthew Stafford has been. 63% of his passes completed, 4,000 plus yards, 33 touchdown passes. They'll start from the 26-yard line. And Stafford will throw deep. Underthrown, and coming back to make the catch is Calvin Johnson. Inside the 30 to the 27 of San Diego.
Well, what Calvin Johnson does is he's the one of the three that adjusts to the football. You can see right there that Gregory and Jammer aren't sure where their ball is. Calvin, it looked more like a punt when it was coming down at him. But a great job of Calvin Johnson tracking the flight of the ball and adjusting his route to get to it.
6'5", 236 pounds, a 46-yard pass play. This is Kevin Smith. It is a veteran offensive line for Detroit. Number 51, Dominic Raiola, in his 11th season out of Nebraska, right in the middle of it. And the Lions' biggest weapon on offense, you just saw him, the superb wide receiver Calvin Johnson. 14 touchdown catches and approaching 1,400 yards receiving. Stafford, far side of the field. That one is complete to the tight end Brandon Pettigrew, who is having a terrific season.
Well, that's Pettigrew's 68th catch of the season. He had 71 a year ago in only his second season. And I'm telling you, this guy only, he's a third-year player, but he's got everything you want in a tight end. He's tall at 6'5". He's powerful. He's big at 265. The complete package. The Lions are thrilled to have him.
Detroit now at the San Diego 17. Stafford running out of time, eludes one tackler and spins his way back to about the original line of scrimmage. The Chargers 3-4 defense. Nose tackle was a game-time decision for Norv Turner. Antonio Garay will start. At linebacker, injured Travis LeBoy sits. Antoine Barnes starts. 11 sacks, 4 of them against Baltimore last week. And in the secondary, free safety Eric Weddle having a tremendous year. 7 interceptions has him tied for the lead in that department in the NFL as you look at Norv Turner, the head coach of the Chargers, and we get a timeout. So Detroit calls timeout. 12:41 to play in the first in Detroit. Second and 11 for the Detroit Lions from the San Diego 18-yard line. Stafford with time, throws near side of the field, wide open inside the 10 of Nate Burleson before he is pushed back. And incidentally, the urgency has been cranked up in the last couple of moments for Phillip Rivers and the San Diego Chargers.
Yeah, the Cincinnati Bengals have won in the early time slot today, and what that means is simply this. If the Chargers lose today's game, their dreams of the playoffs are up in smoke. So even if they win, it's not a guarantee, but if they lose, they are guaranteed of watching the playoffs on television.
Stafford, meanwhile, to the 5. First and goal.
And again, this has to be so frustrating for the Chargers as a team because they worked all week, talked all week about not letting Calvin Johnson make that big play against us. And what happens? The very first play of the game, he puts the Lions in great field position.
Stafford throwing incomplete in the end zone. Intended for Nate Burleson. It'll be second and goal.
And again, here we'll take a look at this from behind. A little play action fake, and that That had no chance of being completed, and no surprise here. Calvin Johnson is never not double teamed. Sometimes he's triple teamed.
Me.
Johnson on the near side of the field here.
He wouldn't recognize single coverage if he saw it.
On second and goal, this is Kevin Smith, and Smith wrapped up, and this will lose a couple of yards back to the 7-yard line. Number 76, Cam Thomas.
Well, running is not one of the strengths of this Lions football team. They're 28th in the league. They started the season with Javid Best being their number 1 running back, but he started the first 6 games. He's on IR with a concussion, and Scott Linehan has had to turn to Kevin Smith, who finally appears to be okay after having a high ankle sprain.
What number?
Third and goal. Stafford throwing. It's a touchdown! Brandon Pettigrew. What a throw by Stafford.
Well, every good offensive football team loves their tight end in the red zone because it's where physical football really comes to the forefront. And right there you could see Pettigrew just fight through the coverage of Niall Diggs. Look at the bumping and the jostling, but he gets just enough separation to give Stafford a target.
Jason Hansen now will line up an extra point attempt.
Physicality in the red zone is big.
And with that extra point, Jason Hansen ties George Blanda for number 5 on the all-time scoring list. Opening drive, touchdown, Lions lead it 7-0. Now we asked head coach Jim Schwartz if Jason Hansen, now in his 20th season, is showing any signs of slowing down. He said, not in the least.
No, 41 years old, and he has been here for some of the Lions' glory days with Barry Sanders, but he has been here for the long dry spell of the last decade as well.
Richard Goodman is deep for San Diego, and he will not run this one out as Hansen clears the end zone. On this day before Christmas, Santa delivered a long pass from Stafford to Calvin Johnson, and then Pettigrew on the receiving end of the touchdown. 7-0 Lions. As we welcome you back, Oakland has beaten and eliminated the Kansas City Chiefs from AFC West contention. For the Chargers, that means 2 wins and a Denver loss next week, and the Chargers win the AFC West. They cannot afford a loss. On first down, screen this side to Ryan Matthews, and he's brought down at the 20-yard line by Justin Durant, number 52. No coincidence that Phillip Rivers has been terrific as the Chargers have kicked it into gear. 8 touchdown passes, no interceptions over the last 4 games. He's over 4,000 yards passing for the 4th consecutive season.
Boy, did they have a beautiful screen set up on first down. It's just nobody told Justin Durant, who went through 2 blockers and made a fine tackle.
This is Ryan Matthews, and Matthews scoots forward to about the 23. Injuries and changes on the offensive line. Center Nick Hardwick has been key. Phillip Rivers says he is the man who has kept the O-line stabilized. And some question as to whether Vincent Jackson, with his team-leading 8 TD catches, could play today with the groin injury. We are told that when it was announced that he will be active and start in the locker room, a roar went up from the team.
Well, there is a roar going up right now from this home crowd of the Lions.
Rivers on 3rd and 7 over the middle, has his man complete across the 35. Is Antonio Gates for his Chargers first down.
Well, and of course, Antonio Gates is chasing Charlie Joyner's club record in receptions, and he's coming back home to play here in Detroit, where he starred in high school, and that's a perfect pocket for Phillip Rivers. And again, this is a matchup Levy's got to try to run with Antonio Gates, who's healthier than he has been all year.
There's Charlie Joyner, the great former wide receiver,
the Hall of Famer, Charlie Joyner.
for First down, San Diego at their own 39. Rivers will pop over the middle and out to the 45, the 46-yard line is Ryan Matthews. The Lions with a monstrous defensive front. Defensive end Cliff Averill, 11 sacks, 6 forced fumbles. Middle linebacker Stephen Tulloch anchored Jim Schwartz's defense in Tennessee. He's Detroit's leading tackler. And Chris Houston has 4 picks this year, as does his opposite number, Eric Wright. Houston has returned 2 of those 4 for touchdowns. And there is Ndamukong Suh on 2nd and 3. Tolbert looks to be about a yard short of a first down at about the 47.5-yard line. Stephen Tulloch making that stop.
Well, one of the stories we're going to have to follow here is on this Detroit defense. They are really banged up in the secondary. Starting free safety Louis Dillman still out with a knee injury, and a couple of their backup cover corners that play a lot, Don Carey and Aaron Berry, are both inactive today. So they're pretty solid up front with that front 7, but depth in the secondary for the Lions a problem today.
3rd and 1. And Rivers and referee Ed Hockley are talking about something here. And there's a question about the play clock, which has expired.
Yeah. Ed Hockley appeared to be saying to Philip Rivers, don't worry about it.
There was a substitution directly to the huddle, but the huddle broke immediately. By rule, the defense is allowed an opportunity to match up. That's why I stepped in and stopped the game. There is no foul for delay. It was my stop, not the offense's stop. Reset the play clock to 10 seconds. 10 seconds on the play clock.
Not a popular explanation by Ed Hockley to the crowd here in Detroit.
3rd and 1. Ryan Matthews is back into the backfield. Rivers going to throw for it. Has time. Over the middle, complete. Gates, the intended receiver, Amari Spivey, was there.
Antonio Gates seemed to stop his pattern. He's going to take a little break right there. He's going to run his stem and then break into the middle. And then it's like he didn't actually finish the pattern. After he made one step to the inside, he kind of pulled up. Rivers was throwing to a spot. His all-pro tight end wasn't there.
That breaks a streak of 7 consecutive games the Chargers scored on their first possession. Logan, fair catch, call for it, dropped it. And the penalty marker flies.
He muffed it and got it back.
Let's see what the flag is on the near side of the field. Ed Hockley discussing it at about the 20-yard line.
During the kick, holding by the receiving team number 16. That's half the distance to the goal. Detroit keeps the ball, first down.
That penalty is on the rookie, Titus Young, so Matthew Stafford will start from his own 2.5-yard line when we come back to Detroit.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by Sprint. All football, no limits, only from Sprint. And by Bud Light, the official beer sponsor of the NFL. Here we go.
.7:03 remaining here in the first quarter, and Stafford and the Lions starting deep in their own territory. Kevin Smith hit the line of scrimmage. Loose football, covered in the end zone. And looks like, well, let's see what they're going to rule.
As to whether they're ruling him down or not. I've not seen a definitive ruling him down.
The ruling on the field is that the runner was down before the ball came loose. Second down.
Donald Butler with the hit.
6:56.
Well, there's
6:56 on the clock.
Butler going after the football. Still got it. Yeah, it appeared by that angle that Smith was down before the ball did come out. Ooh, so close, though.
2nd and 10. Smith straight ahead to about the 7-yard line where Takeo Spikes makes the stop. Keep your fantasy football season going with Playoff Challenge and compete against the nation for a chance to win $5,000. Sign up now at cbsports.com/challenge.
There's Dominic Raiola, the center, along with Jeff Backus, the left tackle. The number 1 and number 2 draft picks back in 2001 who've never been to the playoffs. I can't imagine how emotional this would be for them if the Lions were able to win today. It has been a long, hard road.
On 3rd and 6, Stafford out of his own end zone, far side of the field. That is complete to Nate Burleson and out of bounds for a first down at about the 13.
That Burleson, very smartly before he went out of bounds, just decided to move about a yard up the field before he went out, and that was enough to move the chains. He was able to just stay in long enough. An absolute beautiful throw from Stafford and a nice hands catch by Burleson.
So a little breathing room for the Detroit offense. And Stafford to throw. The screen far side. This is Pettigrew, and Pettigrew going to lose yardage.
Well, Pettigrew's got to cut inside his blockers, not try to jump outside of them. There's nothing out there. Of course, that's where running back is more used to running a screen than Pettigrew. Being a tight end, he doesn't have the running back's instincts. But this is an offensive football team for the Lions that has been racking up points. They're playing with a lot of confidence.
Second and long yardage now. Short pop over the middle, and that's Pettigrew. And Pettigrew out close to the 19-yard line.
Well, nothing spectacular there, but just enough yardage to make it a much more manageable third down now at 3rd and 5.
Matthew Stafford did say he expected a big day out of Pettigrew because he liked the matchups here.
He does. He doesn't think that the linebackers of the Chargers athletically match up with Pettigrew. Let's face it, it's easy for a quarterback to fall in love with his tight end when you've got one as talented as Pettigrew.
Drive 98.
Stafford on 3rd down, throwing far side of the field. That's complete. Titus Young, the rookie out of Boise State for the first down.
You know, this is that time of year where it's almost unfair to call the guy a rookie anymore. After they've played this many games, let's face it, if he was in college, he'd be about halfway through his sophomore year by now. But Titus Young, he has really come along. 5'11", 174, not a big guy at all.
This training camp.
Yeah. When you talk about missing that much practice time, and of course no off season, it's pretty remarkable what he's done.
This is Kevin Smith. And nothing happening on the ground game, and this is a Detroit Lions offense that we discussed earlier. They rush for less than 100 yards a game.
Well, that doesn't mean they stop trying. If they don't try to run, then you're asking the impossible out of the passing game. They've got a good play-action game. Stafford's very accomplished at handing it off. A little pushing and shoving at the end of it, but no big deal. Raiola and Antoine Barnes with the two guys that were in each other's face before warm-ups.
And on 2nd down now, Stafford with time. Oh, what a shot across the 45. First down to Calvin Johnson.
See, when you see a throw like that, that's why Matthew Stafford was the first overall pick back in 09. Because this, not much of a play action, but he got great blocking by his line. But that baby was smoking. Kind of semi-sidearm, but look at that tight spiral right onto the hands of Calvin Johnson. That was a major league throw by Matthew Stafford.
Calvin Johnson becomes number 4 all-time in Detroit history. Reception. This is Kevin Smith. Smith with running room. 45, 40, 35. Forward to about the 30-yard line.
Well, this play's over, guys. Hang in there now.
It it'll be placed at the 31-yard line of the Chargers.
Well, what a hole off the left side. Backus right there gets a good job turning outside, and you saw Gosder Sherilis, the right tackle, pull all the way up through, acting like a guard and getting the kickout block. That nice work by both of the offensive tackles for the Lions, Backus and Sherilis.
Norv Turner and Phillip Rivers looking for the Charger defense to stop someone. First down at the 31. Stafford on the move, throwing, just overthrew Tony Scheffler.
Oh, he had Scheffler too. Yo, that's right, Matthew's a little upset with himself. He had Scheffler, who'd gotten some separation, and then the ball just stales on him. Scheffler's a big guy himself at 6'5", but just couldn't get up there close enough. Matthew Stafford has been pretty spot on with everything up to this point, but that one got away from him.
2nd and 10.
Deuce 51. Watch it here.
Clock down to 2, down to 1, and he has to call a timeout. So Matthew Stafford uses Detroit's 2nd timeout with a minute 31 to play in the first quarter. 7-0 Lions.
You're watching the NFL on CBS.
Minute and a half to play here in Detroit, where the Detroit Lions can make the postseason for the first time since 1999 with a victory. San Diego fighting to stay alive. If they lose, their playoff hopes are done. Movement up front, this will cost the Lions.
The defender never got in the neutral zone. 5-yard penalty. It's 2nd down.
Pettigrew guilty of the early move.
It's one of those, you heard Ed Hockley at the end say the defender didn't get in the neutral zone. If he would have come across the line far enough, that flinch on offense then actually would have been a penalty against the defense.
Under pop. Under, just under.
2nd and 15. Stafford shortening over the middle, and that's complete to Titus Young to about the 32.
Well, that picked up a few yards, but now this is not a manageable 3rd down at 3rd and 11. And now you'd like to see some yards to get into a range where it's a little more comfortable for Jason Hansen. Right now you'd be looking at about a 50-yard field goal.
What number?
Jason
51,
Hansen has
51,
a career
guys.
long of 56. Kevin Smith in the backfield, 3rd and 11. Stafford under pressure, spins away, looks downfield, throwing for the end zone. It is caught in the end zone. No, incomplete. Calvin Johnson went up high and couldn't hold on. You get the feeling these guys have done this.
Well, that's Matthew Stafford. He's just throwing a jump ball, and he does a great job there of getting away from Barnes, and then again comes back and puts aside, the sidearm in it. But look at the timing of the leap by Johnson. And again, right between Gregory and Weddle. Oh, and he had it, and at the last second, Eric Weddle, fantastic job of knocking the ball out of Calvin Johnson's hand.
This is Jason Hansen from 50 yards. And it is perfect. Jason Hansen now with 50 career field goals of 50 or more yards. That's the most in NFL history.
Well, we talked to Eric Weddle, and they say, we know we can't get up there with him. We got to play his hands. And that's exactly what they did there. They played his hands and knocked out a possible touchdown.
Right call.
Here's a look at the AFC playoff picture with the game just completed. The New York Giants defeating the New York Jets. New England has clinched a first-round bye. 12-3. Baltimore a winner today. Then you see Houston and Denver, division leaders. Wild card hunt, Pittsburgh and Cincinnati lead the way. Oakland, the Jets, Tennessee, San Diego still alive. San Diego has to win to stay alive. This is Goodwin, going to run it out of the end zone. Across the 15. And we'll take the opportunity to remind you, subscribe to NFL Magazine, the new official monthly magazine of the National Football League, available at NFL.com/magazine and newsstands everywhere.
Well, what has to be satisfying for the Lions is, yeah, they've got a 10-0 lead, but that last drive, you know, I think Scott Lanahan, and they're talking about how close that was to a touchdown. Even though they ended up with a field goal, Greg, remember, they started that drive at their own 3-yard line. Most impressive. Get points out of that field position.
Rivers going to throw. Get his man at the 35-yard line. This is Malcolm Floyd. And unless something untoward happens, that will be the final play of this first quarter.
Well, the Chargers are going to go without a huddle. They're going to get up to the line of scrimmage, kind of the old muddle huddle where they're getting it. Well, they're not going to run a play. Looked like the line wanted to get up there and run a play, but management says otherwise.
10 points on the board for the Detroit Lions in the first quarter as they enter the playoff hunt in earnest. 10-0 Detroit, back to Ford Field in Detroit after this. You're watching the NFL on CBS. We told you at the top of the broadcast that Philip Rivers, 8 touchdowns, no interceptions over his last 4 games. This is Ryan Matthews.
Well, what San Diego needs to do here, Greg, is possess the ball a little bit. In the first quarter, Detroit ran 21 plays. The Chargers ran only 7. So that's a case where the San Diego defense needs a little rest. The way they do that is if the Chargers offense here can move the chains and pick up a couple first downs.
Well, the whole first, and Kyle Vandenbosch and Cliff Abel.
Yeah, the whole first unit of the Detroit defensive line, they've rotated them around because they can't be winded.
Rivers, sideline, complete to Antonio Gates and out of bounds.
That's one of those deals when you look at Detroit's defensive line standard, they just go by series, and even though they haven't been out on the field very much, they get a blow.
And by my reckoning, that pulls Antonio Gates even with Charlie Joyner. 586 career receptions, and there is Charlie Joyner.
Well, and I know Antonio Gates would prefer to set that record in San Diego, but if he had to do it anywhere else, I'm guessing his hometown of Detroit will substitute.
This is Ryan Matthews to the 49. And for those who didn't have the opportunity to watch Charlie Joyner, he was something special.
Oh, a spectacular receiver, a guy that played for a long time. He was a leader. 1996, Charlie and I were teammates in 1996. We were part of the same class at the Hall of Fame, and I'm telling you, he's one of the game's all-time great people.
Rivers to throw on 2nd and 9 is going to overthrow everybody down the far sideline. And Rivers not looking pleased at all.
Well, Phillip interpreted the defense for a go pattern, and he did not get it from his receiver. I think Vincent Jackson was, let's take a look at, here's Vincent Jackson, and you know, right now what he's got is single coverage, and I don't know what kind of a pattern that was right there. Working against Chris Houston, Phillips going, you got single coverage, that calls for you to run a go. Now keep in mind, Vincent Jackson didn't practice all week with that groin injury.
Rivers now on 3rd and 9. Out here to the near side, Tolbert, and Tolbert brought down at about the 47 of the Lions. That's short of a first down.
Boy, and right now the Chargers are having difficulty matching the emotion of the Detroit Lions. They are flying to the football, they are playing this game right now at an emotional level,
Dan,
about one or two notches above San Diego.
Every Detroit player and coach we spoke with talked about what a huge event this is for this entire city.
Well, it's been a long time since they've been to the Trop.
Stephen Logan is deep. Fair catch called for and made at the 12-yard line. 12:27 to play in the second quarter. Detroit by 10. Well, when you're thinking about getting to the postseason promised land, the Buffalo Bills aren't going to make it this season, but the Detroit Lions need a victory, and they're in.
51.
Stafford and the Lions now on their own 13-yard line. And he's going to put it in the air again. Oh, boy. Scheffler to about the 25 and a first down.
Well, Matthew looked sharp on that pass, but he's looked sharp this entire game. This is how he gets the game started with a, granted, that wasn't a very pretty pass, but after that, he has been dropping them right in on people, right on the hands. He's shown touch, he's shown velocity, and Matthew Stafford, 11 of 14, 128 and a touchdown. An outstanding start, and look how he's spreading it around to 5 different people.
Quick pass out to Titus Young. And Young brought down at about the 28-yard line. Titus Young is one of those players that no matter who you talk with, Dan, he's got nothing but upside.
Well, the thing about Titus Young and Nate Burleson, let's put them both together, is that you're on the field with Calvin Johnson. And that means you're going to see more single coverage than a lot of other receivers because the rest of the secondary is devoted to number 81.
On 2nd and 7, the end around, and this is Burleson with a blocker. 35. And out of bounds close to the 40. That'll be another Detroit first down.
So Scott Linehan, the offensive coordinator, now he's having fun now. Nice little play-action fake, and then Burleson on the end around. And again, boy, he got a beautiful block out front. This is really Will Heller, the tight end. There's Scott Linehan, the former head coach of the Rams. He's been here all 3 years of Matthew Stafford's time in the NFL, and that is a big plus for a young quarterback to have continuity in the coaching staff.
The Lions now operate from their own 39. 10th first down. And that one is underthrown, intended for Kevin Smith out of the backfield.
Well, that's because Donald Butler was just in the hip pocket of Kevin Smith. That wasn't going anywhere, and that was a turnover waiting to happen.
2nd and 10.
Donald Butler, a youngster that's in his second year, but in reality it's his rookie season. He tore his Achilles in training camp last year, missed the entire season. And because they lost Kevin Burnett to free agency, he's had to be in there and play all year, and he's played pretty well.
Stafford with a quick pass up the middle. Kevin Smith running room. Smith diving for the first down marker, and he is right at that marker.
I think he's a wee bit short. At least that's the actual chains are on the far side of the field, and I think Ed Hockley is asking for them to be brought across. That's Greg Minuski. He's the Chargers defensive coordinator in his first year. He coordinated the 49ers for the last 4 years, and a new defensive coordinator was needed because Ron Rivera moved on to become Carolina's head coach.
Is that your definition of wee bit short?
That's a wee bit short.
Wee bit short.
That's a wee bit. Laddie. Well, right now we are seeing a really varied offense being run by the Lions and Scott Linehan. They are playing both sides of the field. Screens to the right, screens to the left. That last one a middle screen, and it's kind of a luxury for an offensive coordinator to call plays when the vast majority of them are being successful.
Third and a wee bit.
Waiting. This is what you call a manager.
And Matthew Stafford going to dive for the first down.
Not all third downs are created equal. That'll help their percentage of conversion. But that was still a good surge by the Detroit offensive line. That was, they knocked the Chargers off the ball.
Rob Sims, the left guard. Jeff Backus, the left tackle.
Oh, no, yeah, no. All right, you want that, all right. Watch it, got a one.
So first down now right at midfield for the Lions. Stafford to throw. Over the middle, wide open, inside the 30, complete to Scheffler. First down to the 25.
Well, Eric Weddle told us that if we make a mistake, we're going to make it in front of us. We are going to play a deep shell. First of all, look at that fantastic wall in front of Matthew Stafford. But again, Scheffler so wide open against his San Diego zone. The two safeties were still 5 yards beyond Scheffler. That was way easy.
Lucky.
26-yard pickup. Stafford under pressure goes down back at the 34. Cam Thomas, number 76, came through.
Man, you can't let a guy go like that. And that is just completely let go. You can see Gosder Sherrillis, the right tackle, looking down to the inside. He was expecting help blocking on the outside. Man, you just don't turn a guy that weighs 335 pounds loose on your QB.
You can get your quarterback killed.
Not unless you want to meet a new QB and have to go explain it to the head coach. No
Second and 19. Stafford throwing. Catch is made. Did he come down inbounds? He did not. Calvin Johnson went up and got it, but came down out of bounds.
Wow, this guy, I know it's an incomplete pass, but look at that effort of elevating and an outstanding job, really an outstanding job of shoving him out of bounds. Weddle does a great job. Remember, there's no such thing as being forced out anymore. You're either in or you're out, and he was out. But man, that was
what a catch.
That was sensational.
And what a throw.
You got him down.
Third and 19. Detroit 5 out of 6 on third down so far today. Stafford over the middle, wide open inside the 15, to the 10, to the 5, and Burleson to about the 3, where it'll be first and goal. Well, the ball came loose.
The officials, I believe, are going to rule Burleson was down. Are they going to call forward progress?
The runner was stopped by forward progress, first down.
And forward progress is not reviewable. Again, massive holes in the middle of this San Diego zone, and the Detroit receivers are finding just vast areas down there. And the officials on the field ruled that Burleson's forward progress was over, case closed.
Stafford gonna throw for it. Touchdown! Kevin Smith. Matthew Stafford and this Detroit offense making it look easy.
Well, they're just coming at them with a little bit of everything, but credit this group up front. Other than the fact the one time that they just let Cam Thomas come in unblocked, it has been a sensational piece of work by the blocking group for the Lions. The offensive line, the tight end that's been helping out. Matthew Stafford has been able to just stand there and pick San Diego apart.
Jason Hansen's extra point is good. 7 minutes, 11 seconds remaining in the first half. All Detroit so far today, 17-0 Lions.
Yeah, come on through! Let's go Lions!
Well, if you were tuned into the NFL today, earlier here on CBS, you heard the guys talking about the assault on Dan Marino's passing mark, and Matthew Stafford certainly qualifies as one of the terrific young guns around the NFL, Dan.
Well, again, this is the first season where he's actually been healthy, and this is what the Lions fans have been waiting to see.
Jason Hansen drives this one deep into the end zone, and it will not be run out by Richard Goodman. So Philip Rivers got to find himself some offensive rhythm to get the San Diego Chargers. 7:11 to play in the first half. To say that Detroit has dominated to this point would be putting it mildly.
32 plays to 12. Already 231 yards of offense.
Whoa. Rivers with lots and lots and lots of time and throws to the near side. And it is complete to Malcolm Floyd.
Well, there's no way you can cover somebody that long.
A Tuesday, the Stars turn out to honor Meryl Streep, Neil Diamond, and more. It's a legendary evening at the Kennedy Center Honors Tuesday. Only CBS. Is there a better actress around these days than Meryl Streep?
No, there's not. And would I really date myself if I said I liked Neil Diamond?
No. Not with me, you won't anyway. Second and short. First man through is Jacob Hester. And Hester has a first down to the 33.
Well, Ndamukong Suh is going to command a lot of attention. You know, forget all the other antics and the suspension and that kind of stuff. He's a supremely talented defensive lineman. When you see a guy that gets elected to the Pro Bowl as a rookie in that position, you're something special.
His philosophy for today was very simple. Get Philip Rivers running for his life. This is Matthew trying to cut it inside and is out to about close to the 35-yard line.
I don't want to be, oversimplify this, but North Turner's team just needs a couple first downs. They have got to get their defense a chance to get their feet underneath them and collect themselves. If they're thrown right back out there, their chances of recovery are real slim. And after what happened this morning, the Chargers lose, and it's over.
Rivers over the middle, and that's thrown behind Floyd. It'll be 3rd and 7.
And he had Floyd open. Working out of the slot right there. Again, Malcolm Floyd, a huge target. He stumbled a little bit, but even that, the stumble would have actually put him farther into his cut. And Philip Rivers that was a misfire.
Come the Lions after Rivers, and Rivers throwing over the middle, incomplete. A week ago against Baltimore, San Diego scored on its first 5 drives of the game.
That was as impressive a performance as I've seen a team play all year long. The way they dismantled the Ravens. And this has been anything but.
A different story so far today. Stephen Logan.
That's returnable.
He will from the 19-yard line right up the middle and across the 25. 4:53 to play in the first half. Matthew Stafford and the Lions up 17.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by the Home Depot. More saving, more doing. That's the power of the Home Depot. And by Corona Extra, who invites you to find your beach.
Just under 5 minutes to play. Jim Schwartz and his Detroit Lions. Those numbers go all the way back to last week when they put on a terrific rally to beat the Oakland Raiders. 28-27. First down, Kevin Smith. Smith bouncing off of potential tacklers before being brought down at about the line of scrimmage, a 26-yard line. Sean Phillips making the tackle.
Well, it's been, that's, not a rare running play, but again, it's been 10 runs, 23 passes. in this pass-happy league, I guess that's balance. But if San Diego is going to play as soft a zone as they've been playing, there's no reason for Detroit to stop throwing the ball. There's some big holes in there.
Stafford this side of the field, and it's complete to Pettigrew. And Pettigrew brought down, but not before he has a first down for the Lions at the 40-yard line. With Matthew Stafford just throwing the heck out of the football so far today.
Well, as you see, 213 yards already. Nothing going on the ground for either team, although it's not relevant as far as the Lions are concerned. And Calvin Johnson, he got the game started off in a pretty good way with that long gainer on the first play of the game.
15 Detroit first downs to 4 for the Chargers. And that one is complete once again to Pettigrew. Brandon Pettigrew, 6'5", 265 in his third season out of Oklahoma State.
And again, nothing but time for Matthew Stafford. Look at that football. And just look at the rotation of the laces, how tight the spiral, and hitting his receivers in stride on the hands.
This is Kevin Smith, wrapped up by number 58, Niall Diggs.
And you got to wonder, you know the Lions would love to be able to run the football better than they have. It's, they might have to end up going to a place like Green Bay in the playoffs, playing outdoors and in harsh weather, might be big winds or something like that. And that's where running the football isn't a luxury, it's a necessity.
Well, they'll find out next week when they finish up their regular season at Green Bay,
right,
at Lambeau. 3rd and 1.
Lady!
Stafford going to throw for it. Pulls it down a couple of times, has plenty of time, and over the middle it's complete to Pettigrew for a first down just inside the 35.
Well, the secondary of the Chargers has to be going, well, how long do I have to cover somebody? Well, let me tell you something. It's a long time when this is the kind of blocking that's going on in front of Matthew Stafford. He only threw that because he wanted to. He still wasn't forced to throw it. That is an impossibility for a secondary to cover people for that length of time.
Right on the money. 2 minutes to play in the first half. All Lions. 2 minutes to play here in the first half. The Lions first down at the 35. And this handoff is for Maurice Morris, and Morris running room inside the 30 to about the 26. Coming up, the Sprint halftime report. JB, Dan Shannon, Boomer, Coach Cowher, latest scores, highlights, playoff scenarios coming up on the Sprint halftime report. Philip Rivers is going to take the halftime to try to search for a little San Diego offense.
Well, when Detroit's run 38 plays already, he's been a spectator most of this first half.
These Chargers will get their hands on the ball first in the second half. Stafford on 2nd and 2, and this one is complete to Pettigrew. Pettigrew!
He tries to go right over Antoine Case and didn't make it.
He did get a first down inside the 20.
There's Case at number 20, and he does not go as low as Brandon Pettigrew thought he was going to go.
Morris inside the 15. This is a San Diego pass defense that came into this game averaging, giving up 100 or 201 and a half yards a game. Detroit has already put 227 on the board.
The Lions only have one timeout left.
Stafford throwing. Touchdown!
So what?
Calvin Johnson. And again, another rifle shot from Matthew Stafford.
Well, this is a complete and utter destruction of the San Diego defense. They can't mount much of a pass rush. They're not covering wide open Detroit receivers. This is, I don't know, the defensive coaches can say whatever they want to say to them at halftime, and they've got no response.
Hanson adds another. 31 seconds to play in the first half. Third. Calvin Johnson, number 81. He and Matthew Stafford are just having themselves a ball here today.
Well, they're just tearing this zone defense of the Chargers into little tiny pieces.
Goodman will run this one out from about 5 yards deep. Breaks to the outside and is out of bounds just across the 20-yard line. Let's go back.
Well, again, it's this San Diego. You got to get a big jam right here, but here's the safety that's got to come over and get in. But watch, first of all, the jam misses, so Johnson gets a fairly free release, and then Gregory is so late getting over there that, again, there's just this huge void in the defense. And that's just way too easy against an NFL defense. If you're going to try to jam a guy, you got to do a better job than that.
Now 26 seconds left in the first half. Phillip Rivers. Screen to Tolbert. Tolbert across the 25 to about the 28-yard line. Timeout is called by the Chargers. They're first here in the second half. Well, North Turner just trying to contemplate what he's going to do in the second half. He's had no answers here in the first. Rivers on the move, sideline. That's complete at about the 35 to Patrick Creighton. And that stops the clock with 14 seconds to play.
You know, Greg, we looked at North Turner. As a coach, you don't see this coming. You prepare your team the same way every week. You watch them in practice. You put them in positions to make plays. And then a debacle like this unfolds in front of you. And I'm sure Norv is going, how can this be happening? Any coach would be thinking that. I'm sure the team prepared a lot better than this, than the results.
Well, Norv said he expected his team to be fast on the turf, but they haven't been faster than the Lions. This one deep down the near sideline. It is almost intercepted. Intended for Vincent Jackson, and Chris Harris almost picked it off.
Well, that ball hung in the air just long enough for Chris Harris to cover a lot of ground and get there. Because we're talking about a receiver that was open, but it was so far downfield, Harris was able to come over from his safety position. But again, the corner coverage underneath, Alphonso Smith, you saw, was right there with the receiver. Classic double team.
Sideline pass, in and out of the hands of Creighton. 3 seconds remaining.
Well, Creighton was surprised by that. I'm not sure if he thought he was just being a decoy or whatever, but that ball handcuffed him because he didn't snap his head around in time.
So in all likelihood, we're looking at the final play of the first half that has belonged to the Detroit Lions.
For the Chargers, mercifully.
And the Lions take a timeout. So the Lions take their third and final timeout with 3 seconds remaining, and remind you once again, coming up, the Spread halftime report. JB, Dan, Shannon, Boomer, Coach Bill Cowher. Confused about the postseason? They'll explain it all to you.
Hey, and that's a smart timeout by Jim Schwartz. With this, the big tall receivers for San Diego, Floyd 6'5", Jackson 6'5". You want to make sure that you explain to your guys, A, we don't give up a jump ball down there and let somebody get behind us, but we also be smart and no penalty that would extend the half. So that's talk it over and be smart. And the Detroit safeties right now are
just barely in the building.
They're back around the 25-yard line.
And they're going to hand it off to Tolbert. And Tolbert going to run it up the middle and get spun down at about the 37-yard line. And that will bring the first half to an end. The Lions' eyes focused focused on the postseason. A win and they're in. They lead it 24-0. Sprint halftime report after this message and a word from your local station.
You're watching the NFL on CBS.
We are at halftime at Ford Field in Detroit. The Lions with a 24-0 lead. Let's take a look at the Droid Razor play presented by Motorola.
Well, it's a touchdown pass from Matthew Stafford to Calvin Johnson. Great teamwork, awesome blocking up front by the offensive line, and just finding that hole in the San Diego zone. And talk about zone, in the zone is where Matthew Stafford and the Detroit offense has been this whole first half.
Greg Gumbel along with Dan Deerdorf. Merry Christmas to you, everyone. And it's been anything but that so far for the San Diego Chargers. And as we talked with Norv Turner in preparation for this game, Dan, I guess a coach really has no idea how his team is going to come out, but Norv didn't expect this.
Oh, well, no, who would? There's not a coach at high school would expect his team to come out and to perform this poorly, and especially given the fact that lately the Chargers have been playing really well. I mean, very well. And so, yeah, of course it's a surprise.
You look at the numbers for the quarterbacks, and they tell the story of just what's happened here. And you're right, Dan, the San Diego Chargers have been averaging more than 30 points a game for their last 3 games. They're shut out here in the first half.
Well, if we had room, along with Matthew Stafford, I would put up his entire offensive line, because they played a sensational first half, giving him all sorts of time to throw the ball. Nice, comfortable pocket Mr. Stafford has enjoyed. He's been sacked twice, but by and large, he has been in the rocking chair.
Well, the Chargers get a chance to do something on offense right off the bat. Hansen kicks it away to Richard Goodman. And Goodman will not run this one out from the back of the end zone as we look at some halftime numbers, and gee, they seem to be a little skewed in favor of the Detroit Lions.
Well, seriously, when you look at a team that gives up 305 yards in the first half, converting 7 of 8 third downs, that is complete and utter domination. 2-to-1 time of possession, 12 plays of 10 or more yards. So you cannot hand it to somebody more than the Chargers have had it handed to them by this Detroit offense.
So let's see what Phillip Rivers and the offense of the Chargers can do about this 24-point deficit as we start the second half. Rivers, and this is complete to Ryan Matthews out of the backfield.
Well, the Chargers on offense, they couldn't get their defense, the rest that they needed. Incomplete passes, again, misinterpretations on a route between Rivers and Vincent Jackson. So it has really been a sporadic effort on both sides of the ball for Norv Turner's team here.
We just talked about how the Chargers have performed their last 3 games. Not today, not yet.
Well, 3 straight wins, and what they scored, 39, 37, 34 points.
Going deep. Floyd, incomplete. Chris Houston, step for step.
And you're right, even though Chris Houston gives up a lot in size to Malcolm Floyd, he was right there, right in his hip pocket.
I think you made the point before the game, Dan. Have you ever been in a place where there have been so many big, wide receivers?
Well, no. The Chargers, of course, have 2 of them with Floyd and Jackson, but then on the other side, you got Calvin Johnson, who's 6'5" as well, and who can leap right out of the building. Calvin Johnson, his speed, his leaping, his size, that's why he's special.
3rd and 2. Rivers out here, complete to Patrick Creighton, and Creighton just across the 40-yard line, and that'll be a San Diego first down.
And a rare 3rd down, conversion, and a good start for the San Diego offense. And when I say a good start, moving the chains, we're going to start with baby steps with this San Diego offense.
Safe to say we'll see Phillip Rivers airing it out here in the second half and catch up Turner. The short pass is incomplete. In and out of the arms of Mike Tolbert.
Now, Philip Rivers did his job. He moved around a little bit, extended the play, but he delivered a perfect ball right to Tolbert. And Tolbert just looks away, and the ball just caroms right off the front of his shoulder pads. You know, when you're down 24-0, every mistake is magnified.
We're talking with these Chargers and talking about this last surge over the last 3 weeks. Both Norv Turner and Philip Rivers said the first time that they've had all their guys together in quite some time. Rivers and complete to Jacob Hester, but not for much. Justin Durant rides him out of bounds.
You know, this is a situation as the Chargers go back to their huddle. A lot of times you'll see teams just trying to shake it up and to establish some sort of rhythm. They go to a no huddle, they go to a hurry up. You know, when you got a goose egg in the first half, a lot of teams will just shake it up, do anything to change their mojo. The Chargers electing to just stay in their conventional offense in the huddle.
4th and 7. Rivers under pressure and throws incomplete.
Well, nothing fancy there. The Lions just came with an extra rusher. They came with 5. And there's Philip Rivers, no stranger to talking to the other team's sideline.
Getting into it on the near sideline with the Detroit Lions.
And, you know, Philip Rivers, a very emotional player. And it looks like Ndamukong Suh comes over and says something to him. And Philip took offense.
Fair catch called for and made at about the 18-yard line by Stephon Logan. 12:46 to play in the third. Lions back on offense. That graphic there will tell you that Matthew Stafford and the Detroit offense has been clicking on all cylinders.
Well, look at the yardage, Greg. 74, 65, 87, and 74-yard drive. That's fantastic.
Under pressure, Stafford goes down back at his 7-yard line. Donald Butler.
And San Diego is not a team that blitzes very often. And Greg Minuski decides to throw one in there. And as you can see, Butler comes through completely untouched. Maurice Morris, the back, it was his responsibility. And by the time he tried to react back to the inside, way too late.
Second down. Greg Minuski obviously subscribing to, we got to do something.
Well, they can't sit in that zone. They cannot rush forward and sit in that zone the rest of the game.
2nd and 20. Stafford going to go to the far side of the field, and that is complete. And out across the 15 is Nate Burleson.
What San Diego would like to do right now is actually let the crowd here see Ben Graham for the first time today. Detroit has yet to punt.
It has been a long time since the Detroit Lions have been part of the postseason. 1999, and a win today put Detroit back into the playoff. On 3rd and 12, screen. This is Morris. Morris, 20, 25, and will come up just short of a first down.
Well, a nice run by Morris and a good effort, but the tackling of San Diego held him up just a couple yards short. You see right there that what a great job of delivering that ball by Matthew Stafford.
Crossbody, wasn't it?
I mean, it was. It was like almost, it was like a waist-high throw. He had a rusher right in his face. And that is Ben Graham, isn't it?
As you requested. There's been a Ben Graham sighting.
I didn't request it. San Diego did.
Antoine Casey will run this one back from his own 26. Running room on the left side, now across the 40, out of bounds at about the 43-yard line. 10:42 to play in the third quarter.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by Southwest Airlines. Find our fares online only at southwest.com. AT&T. Get it faster with 4G. Rethink possible. And by Jaguar. See the new model year lineup at jaguarusa.com.
Chargers going to try to make something happen again, this time from their 43-yard line, their best field position of the day, starting a drive. Rivers, sideline, overthrows, incomplete. It'll be second down. We saw a little feistiness from Philip Rivers. He's done that before.
Well, yeah, Philip is, he's a chatterbox. Remember this time with Jay Cutler? Jay Cutler over on the Denver sideline, and they're going at it. You know, that's the first time I've ever seen two quarterbacks get after it. And now, you know, Philip upset after that last play, but then Ndamukong Suh says something to him, and, you know, game on. But that's, you know, Philip Rivers, an excitable guy, a natural leader,
But not Ndamukong Suh.
No, well,
Rivers. And this one is complete out to the 40-yard line. Vincent Jackson pulling it in. Inside the 40 to the 39, and that'll move the chains. It's a first down.
remember we asked Philip, are you gonna talk any stuff to Ndamukong Suh? And he said, I'm not going to say a word to him. Now, I might talk to Stephen Tulloch because they were teammates once upon a time back at North Carolina State. But he said, I'm not saying anything to Suh. Well, yeah, he did. A score here, and as crazy as it sounds, San Diego is making a step to get back in this game.
Rivers throwing in it. What a catch made by Gates. And that's a record setter.
And isn't that appropriate? And there's a flag back near the quarterback, and it's coming back. Charlie, you still are in a tie for the lead. Oh, that's a shame.
What a catch.
Holding against the Chargers.
What a grab by Antonio Gates.
Brings it back. That would have been that would have been a heck of a way to break the record. Look at Antonio Gates fighting through two guys to get off the line of scrimmage. Durant's got decent coverage on him, but all for naught.
So now the line of scrimmage back to the 49, and it's first and 20. Rivers down the far sideline. Popped in the air and grabbed by Vincent Brown.
Well, it gets tipped by the Detroit defender and ends up going right to Brown. That's, I think, Eric Wright. At first glance, I thought he touched it. When I look at it at that, maybe this will tell us. Yes, he definitely alters the flight of that ball.
North Turner.
Yeah, great concentration, staying with it.
North Turner said Vincent Brown's a young man who just needs time. Meanwhile, this is Matthews left side and out of bounds just short of the 10-yard line.
I mean, I know as goofy as it sounds, and yeah, I'm in the business of trying to get you to not go someplace else, but San Diego's offense can score a lot of points ordinarily. Disregard the first 30 minutes of this ball game. If they can make this a 24-7 game, it gets a little interesting.
They average 25.5 on the season. This is their first trip into the red zone today. Rivers, end zone, touchdown San Diego, Malcolm Floyd.
And the first signs of life from the San Diego Chargers offense this entire game. Good, solid, touchdown-producing drive. Philip working the left side of the field the entire way, and because of the stumble, you can see that Eric Wright just loses his footing, way overplaying the inside move there by Malcolm Floyd. It really handcuffed his ankles, and he wasn't able to make a recovery back to the outside.
It took the Chargers 5 plays in 2 minutes and 4 seconds. They're on the board, 24-7 Detroit. Well, the San Diego Chargers breaking a horrible streak. punt, halftime punt. And then they find the end zone. Phillip Rivers to Malcolm Floyd. Now it'll be up to the defense to put clamps on what has been a very effective Lions offense. Onside kick, rolling to the near side, and it is covered by the Chargers.
Eric Weddle, I believe, has it. And I can't believe that Detroit got caught that flat-footed on a team that's not from a team that's down 24-7. Jim Schwartz has got to be a little upset about that.
Nicely executed to the near side of the field.
It's got to go 10 yards. It certainly does that. It's touched by Detroit Lion, and then after a momentary
ball is touched by Detroit, which starts the clock, then legally recovered by San Diego. San Diego's ball first down. Please reset the clock to 8:35. 3 seconds ran off the clock.
So Ed Hockley just doing a little housekeeping with the clock. And the Chargers start now from the Detroit 47.
Well done by Novak.
Rivers, far side of the field, and just throws it away. Floyd was over there but was covered. It'll be 2nd and 10.
And that's the one thing about Phillip Rivers. In the last month, he has been very judicious in throwing the football after throwing 17 picks in the first 10 games. And that was just so, he's thrown more interceptions this season than he's thrown any time in his career. But in the last month, he has really tightened it up. He hasn't thrown any.
Rivers slips it over the middle, and that is complete to Tolbert. In Phillip Rivers, you're talking about the ultimate late season quarterback. As a starter, he is 23-2 during the month of December. That's phenomenal.
It really is phenomenal. And the Chargers themselves, even the year before, Rivers got here, have this extraordinary December and January record. The best by any starting quarterback in any month, not just late in the season, any month.
3rd and 3. Rivers steps up, throws, complete, and this is Randy McMichael. And McMichael has a first down.
Well, now it's the San Diego offensive line that's getting it done. That time they provided Phillip Rivers enough time to go through his entire progression, and he's finally able to just check down. And Randy McMichael has been such a workhorse for this San Diego offense. A lot of it not very glamorous because he blocks so much.
This is Tolbert. Good. Think about throwing it back, but he's going to keep it inside the 35 to the 33.
I think he was going to throw it back to Phillip Rivers. And the Lions did a good job of cutting it off. All right, that's a pitch. There hasn't been a forward pass. This is going to be a backwards pass.
And Phillip Rivers was waving him off.
Oh, well, that's because Phillip Rivers was completely covered. Great job by the Lions defense. I think Kyle Vandenbosch was right in the face of Phillip Rivers.
Chargers getting absolutely giddy on offense over there. 2nd and 12. Rivers near side, and that is out of bounds, incomplete. Malcolm Floyd couldn't hold on. Chris Houston harassing him all the way.
Well, we're back to what everybody's been talking about with the tall receivers. Play their hands. Claw at that football and try to knock it out once the big, tall receivers get their hands on it. Gunther Cunningham, the defensive coordinator of Detroit, not a big blitzer. Let's see if he only rushes forward and plays coverage behind it, or if he comes with a blitz.
Here they come. Over the middle. Complete. 10, 5. Floyd. And a great job, and look at Phillip Rivers.
Well, Cunningham came with the six-man rush, so he comes with the blitz, and it's picked up. Take a look at this. Everybody's accounted for. Rivers is able to look downfield. Then he's got man coverage, and Floyd wins. No safety in the middle. It's wide open, and Houston not able to keep up with Malcolm Floyd.
Rivers was all fired up after that play. First and goal.
And this is going to get really interesting if they can get this in the end zone.
Rivers throwing, corner of the end zone. Antonio Gates hits the deck and falls incomplete.
Well, Antonio Gates split out as a wide receiver and just a little stutter step to the inside, and that's just a case of Gates losing his footing. Chris Harris didn't interfere with him. That's just where Antonio Gates, trying to backpedal, just lost his legs underneath him.
Brandon Dombrowski has reported in as an eligible receiver on the front line for San Diego on second and goal. Tolbert loses yardage.
Well, here's where the noise is going to come into play. As we go to third and goal now, I would assume this place is going to get really loud. Again, Phillip Rivers has got some big receivers and his tight end to play jump ball with here.
And we are going to get a timeout. San Diego uses its first here in the second half. 5:02 to play in the third.
And by National Car Rental. Go National. Go like a pro.
A big third and goal for the Chargers. Rivers, end zone, incomplete. Chris Houston batting it away from Malcolm Floyd.
Well, Chris Houston just put on a clinic on how to play defensive back in the end zone. You get physical, you compete, you're right there. Look at him, and then he undercuts Malcolm Floyd, even giving away about 6 inches to Floyd. He gets in front of him. He knows he's got a compressed field. Great coverage.
So now Novak will try this one from 22. And it's 24-10. Phillip Rivers comes up short of a touchdown. Not at all pleased about it, but he has time.
I'm Phillip Rivers, wishing you and your family a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
And we echo those sentiments, and a couple of members of our terrific crew here in Detroit on this Christmas Eve.
That might be the best Santa hat ever. Battery powered. It does the Macarena. That's quite a hat.
And our guys doing their usual great job bringing you the sights and sounds of a big football game here in Detroit. Stephon Logan will not run this one out of the end zone, and the Lions will start from their own 20-yard line. Give us a chance to tell you about tomorrow on 60 Minutes, a journey to some of the most important sites in all of Christianity on a special Christmas edition of 60 Minutes tomorrow only, CBS.
Well, Greg, I'm not clairvoyant, but I don't think 24 points is going to win this football game. So, to the people in this stadium that are rooting for Jim Schwartz's Lions, if you're not uneasy, you should be. Even though they own the second half, they played well, but this offense better get it moving here a little bit.
Quick pass out to the far side, and Burleson breaking free, out across the 35 and out of bounds. And you know what? Sometimes, Dan, that's as good as a good running play.
Well, you do what you do best. And you know Matthew Stafford does this probably 7-8 times a game, where a running play called, and they call it a look, where he just comes up and throws the football. And you're right, it is like a running play, but you might as well do what you do best. And let's face it, what the Lions do best is throw the football.
Stafford with 10 straight completions. And he's going to throw it again. Up the middle. Wide open is Calvin Johnson. Inside the 45 to the 41.
That's something Jim Schwartz was telling us about Calvin Johnson, that, he used to be just a straightaway guy, outrun the coverage, but now he's so much more comfortable in the middle of the field. But again, look at those soft hands. He elevates, no bobble, no nothing, just such tremendous range and such a wingspan. I'm not sure there's a receiver in football that scares DBs quite like Calvin Johnson.
On first down, the give is to Maurice Morris. Little or no gain on the play. And that's pretty good numbers. And Scott Mitchell, boy, isn't it amazing the place that he holds in Detroit history, Dan?
Well, it's hard to believe that 8 career 300-yard passing games is the best in the history of this franchise. Can that actually be true? That's not very many.
Then again, what would Bobby Lane have done under today's rules?
Well, hey, are you saying it was harder to throw the football back then?
Might have been. 2nd and 9. Stafford, wide open, Burleson. Burleson inside the 30, another Detroit first down.
Well, again, we talked earlier about how Burleson and Titus Young and these other Detroit receivers benefit from being on the field at the same time as Calvin Johnson. And a lot of moves here by I don't, 1 or 2 of those might work, but a half a dozen in conjunction with one another, I don't think that does much of anything to anybody.
Here's Kevin Smith to about the 26. And the Lions keeping the clock running as we come up on 2 minutes to play in the third quarter.
Well, we've seen 1 or 2 decent runs from this Lions running game. They've got 59 yards all told running the football, and again, it's just enough to keep the defense honest, and it's just enough to give some legitimacy to the Detroit play-action passing game.
Once again, Kevin Smith, the deep back, 2nd and 7. Deep drop for Stafford. On the move, throws, incomplete. 2 receivers on that side of the field, Pettigrew and Titus Young.
Well, that time San Diego came with a blitz, and Matthew Stafford left the pocket, and I didn't think he had to. He rolled to the right and actually rolled right into the face of pressure. If he'd have stayed in the pocket, I think he'd have had a whole lot better look at what was going on downfield.
A win and Detroit is in the postseason. A loss and San Diego will see their season end next week. 3rd and 7. Over the middle, wide open. Pettigrew, first down to the 15.
Well, Calvin Johnson goes deep, and when he goes deep, he takes the shell of the San Diego defense with him, and that leaves all sorts of room underneath for Pettigrew and for Burleson. And at that time, the tight end and the quarterback just played pitch and catch. But credit Calvin Johnson. Oh, and here we've got a Charger who's down. The players are acting like he's having a cramp. When you see him force a toe back like that, you wonder if his hamstring's not cramping.
Looks like it might be Nile Diggs.
When you get a cramp like that and you see a player bend that toe back, that's a...
Yeah, it was Dominic Raiola, I believe, who stomped out there and said, make sure he's not faking it.
Well, we've seen defensive players take a dive before to try to slow down an offense when they're really humming.
It's a little early for that, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't... when it comes to a player and an injury, from where we are up here in the booth, you always assume the guy's really hurt. It's a dangerous thing for us to start speculating otherwise.
It has been a most interesting day, this second to last weekend of the regular NFL season. The Buffalo Bills just pounded the Denver Broncos. And how about the New York Giants, what they did to the Jets?
Well, it's not going to be a great holiday for Rex Ryan and the Jets. Tremendous. That is the play of the year so far in the National Football League.
Cincinnati wins next week. They are in the postseason. Denver wins next week. They win the AFC West.
New England, by going to 12-3, they're in play for the number 1 seed, but they have guaranteed themselves of a bye. They won't play until the divisional playoff round. The worst they can be is the number 2 seed. Again, Niall Diggs just getting up. And the crowd not... Okay, they're the boos changed to a smattering of applause.
On the replay, take a look at number 58, Niall Diggs.
Well, he did go down in a hurry, but I'm telling you, I've seen guys before that faked an injury. They didn't fake it for this long. And unless he's going for the Academy Award, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. I think he had a real cramp. Maybe we'll call Willie McGinnis and get some of the finer points on how to pull that off.
First down for Stafford and the Lions at the 15. Stafford inside the 10, bullseye to the 5-yard line. Scheffler on the receiving end. And a little pushing and shoving, and Scheffler walks away.
Well, again, just behind Calvin Johnson, who clears and leaves an opening underneath, but that was man coverage all the way to Cato Spikes on Scheffler, and Scheffler just won the one-on-one matchup.
25 seconds to play in the third. Kevin Smith, 5, touchdown!
Well, that's what really good football teams do. When the other team makes a little mini run, you respond. And the Detroit Lions this time, with a little mix and match, finish it off with a rushing touchdown by Kevin Smith. But that's what winning football teams do. They respond, and the Detroit Lions did so.
Jason Hanson. Extra point is good. The Detroit Lions set a single-season record with their 51st touchdown of the season.
And once again, this Detroit offensive line plays a really, really good series. They have been dominant for the majority of this game.
31-10, Lions, 16 seconds to play in the third. To New York for an NFL Today update.
Hey, Greg, all even in Seattle.
Greg, Dan, did you see the movie An Inconvenient Truth? That was Al Gore. This is a 4-yard touchdown run. That's Frank Gore. 10-10 tie in Seattle.
Greg and Dan, he's been like that all day. Back to Greg Gumbel.
JB, limit his coffee, will you?
Shannon's been getting out to the movies just a little too often. The NFC playoff picture: Green Bay, San Francisco, New Orleans. Dallas in the lead for the time being in the East.
You look at that trio, though, at the top there, Greg. It has been a while since we have seen the 49ers in that kind of company. Those Green Bay, of course, the defending champions, the Saints, ever since Drew Brees and Sean Payton got there. They're in the mix every year.
And you simply can't say enough about the job that Jim Harbaugh has done out at San Francisco.
No, you cannot. 51 total tees.
Richard Goodman is deep. And that'll go out of the end zone for the touchback. While we have a moment, only one network brings you America's top comedies. How I Met Your Mother, 2.5 Men, The Big Bang Theory, Two Broke Girls, and Mike and Molly. Only CBS. 16 seconds to play in the third. Let's see how dispirited the Chargers were by that Detroit Lions drive. First down from the 20. Rivers over the middle, and that's complete to Vincent Jackson. And Jackson brought down at about the 43-yard line, and time will expire here in the third quarter. It's a 31-10 Detroit lead. The Detroit Lions are 15 minutes away from the postseason. We're coming back after this message and a word from your local station. You'll remember Niles Diggs was helped off the field with an apparent cramp, and that's pretty good proof right there that he had one, Dan.
That's rehydrating when you've got a drink in both hands.
Start of the fourth quarter. Rivers, short pass. That one is complete to Randy McMichael. Greg Gumbel, Dan Deerdorf, our producer, Mark Wolf, our director, Bob Fishman, and the rest of our CBS Sports crew, wishing you and yours a very Merry Christmas, Happy New Year from Detroit.
You know, this Detroit Lions defensive line, they don't have a sack yet on Phillip Rivers, and he's been behind this whole game.
This is Ryan Matthews, and Matthews breaks free inside the 45 to the 44, where Ndamukong Suh makes the stop.
Here we get a good look at him in here in the inside, and that's just pretty good mashing by the line and active running by Ryan Matthews. But I would have thought that they'd put a little more pressure on Rivers, knowing that he's got to play come from behind football and throw it the majority of the time.
Four-man rush. Rivers free, throwing to the far side and in and out of the hands of Vincent Jackson.
Well, we didn't know that Vincent Jackson was going to play, and neither did the Chargers until he was able to come out here and work up a pretty good sweat in the pregame to try to get that groin to the position where he could play. Boy, you saw him grimace right there. I don't know if that was from pain or from the pain of dropping a good throw from Phillip Rivers.
Rivers has thrown for 234 yards today. The Chargers have rushed for 29. And Rivers down the near sideline and out of bounds, incomplete. Patrick Creighton couldn't stay in bounds.
Well, I don't think he could stay in bounds and catch that pass, because that ball was out of bounds. But again, Phillip Rivers pretty comfortable back there throwing the ball. When you look at where that pass was, I'm not sure anyone could have kept their feet in bounds and still collected that football.
Little pass out to Tolbert. Tolbert spins down at about the 39-yard line. It'll be 4th and 5.
Well, of course, the Chargers have to go for it. Pretty good pop at the end of this. Let's listen in. That was Justin Durant, who came across
more than a few plays today. 4th and 5. Rivers over the middle, and that's complete to Antonio Gates. And that one will count.
And Eric Wright has got to be going, are you kidding me? How did he catch that? And that is the record-breaking catch. But look at Wright all over, and he's digging at his arms, clawing at his arms, and in a physical game, Antonio Gates wins the battle right there.
And now the all-time leader in receptions for the San Diego franchise.
And again, a reminder, he did it in his hometown. Born and raised right here in Detroit.
First down. Rivers with time. Incomplete. Intended for Vincent Brown.
Well, again, the coverage by the Lions forcing Rivers to throw a pass that to complete it, it can only end up out of bounds. That time Spivey was back there. Smith was back there. And Antonio Gates. Again, there's just that. Again, no way could that pass be completed in the field of play. And that's because of the Lions' coverage.
Sorry, man, 55. Let's pass this game off here. Rock it, rock it. Reds.
Rivers throws, and that one is complete to Vincent Brown to about the 26-yard line. Clock continues to move, and Jim Schwartz not gonna rest easy until he's got a comfortable lead in the final minute or so. Gunther Cunningham.
In his third season as defensive coordinator, since Jim Schwartz has been here these 3 years, same offensive and defensive coordinators. That continuity is a big plus.
33. And we get a timeout called by Detroit. 11:51 to play in the fourth.
.com/ticket exchange.
You're watching the NFL on CBS.
Dan, I remember when we were here back in August, Robert Kraft, the owner of the Patriots, told us he was so happy for that man for the pending success of the Detroit Lions.
William Clay Ford, the owner of this football team for decades.
3rd and 3. Rivers over the middle, got his man inside the 10 to about the 3. That's Malcolm Floyd. It'll be 1st and goal for the Chargers.
And again, let's take a look at this from behind. And again, the Detroit pass rush not able to disrupt Phillip Rivers. They're not getting in his face. He's got a clear passing lane. Of course, Phillip at a good 6'5", throwing to a receiver who's 6'5". But he's not been sacked today.
1st and goal. Rivers throwing, corner of the end zone, incomplete. Vincent Brown on that side. It'll be 2nd and goal. During the last time out, Dan, we saw Jim Schwartz out in the middle of his defense.
Well, he was out there. He got the DBs all off to one side and was pretty vocal about what he wanted done. You know, Jim maintains pretty good composure on the sidelines, but Greg, we've known him for years. Inside that facade burns a pretty good fire.
2nd and goal.
You can see, you would expect more pressure and more sacks when you're playing from behind all day.
Rivers, short pass underneath is off the fingertips of Mike Tolbert. And a little increased pressure on Phillip Rivers there.
You can see right there, but still, that ball was a little bit behind Tolbert. And Phillip was hardly the intended receiver. He was working the right side of the field and checked down and came back to Tolbert. Not a good throw.
Rivers going to the corner of the end zone again, and incomplete, intended for Floyd.
Boy, Chris Houston has been playing a heck of a football game out there at his left corner position. He has been competing with these taller receivers. He's not playing the football, he's playing the receiver, but he didn't interfere with him. That takes some skill.
Huge play for these San Diego Chargers. Rivers throwing, incomplete at the goal line.
Alfonso Smith that time. And I would say the message was received by these Lion defensive backs after Jim Schwartz got after him a little bit. They have competed and they have won.
At VWDealer.com.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by the Droid Razor by Motorola. Droid Strong, Razor Sharp. New York Life Insurance Company. And by the Volkswagen Sign Then Drive event, where you can drive away in any new 2012 VW for practically just your signature.
10:59 to play here in the fourth quarter, and Matthew Stafford and the Lions now going to look to take a little time off the clock if they can, but they're going to have to deal with the false start.
False start, offense number 87. Half the distance to the goal. It's first down.
Now that only costs you about 3/4 of a yard.
The coaches looking on here for San Diego. A loss here means no possibility for the playoffs. Meanwhile, Detroit would clinch their first playoff berth since 1999 with a victory.
And of course, that's a wild card spot as Green Bay has run away with that division.
Straight up the middle of Maurice Morris out over the 5 to the 6-yard line. And the name of the game here for the Lions is to take a little time off the clock.
Well, this is one of those where you just keep playing football and really fight the urge to keep looking at the clock, because it's the old watch pot. It'll never boil. It moves so slowly. So just keep playing football. Keep playing it the way you played it in the first 3 quarters. And the rest of it will take care of itself.
This is Morris. And Morris out to the 10. It'll be about 3 yards short of a first down. San Diego has made 3 trips to the red zone today, have come away with a touchdown and a field goal. Detroit, 4 trips into the red zone, 4 touchdowns.
Well, I think that San Diego came into this game with a tremendous amount of respect for this Detroit offense, but I don't think in their wildest scenarios that they played out, they saw their defense being totally manhandled and dismantled like they were in the first half by this Detroit O.
On third down, Stafford looking for a first down, throws it downfield, and is caught at the 35, and a flag flies. Titus Young pulling it in.
Well, he's working against Dante Hughes. Now let's see which way this goes.
Pass interference defense, number 33. The pass was complete, so the penalty is declined. First down.
You know, that's when, as a quarterback, you have confidence in your players to go up and get the football, because Titus Young is covered. He is covered. Now, granted, yes, he is interfered with, but look at Titus Young go up, catch the ball at its highest point, and bring it down. And keep in mind, that's a rookie.
Now here it comes from over there.
7 plays of 20 or more yards for the Lions this afternoon. This is Kevin Smith. Dragged down at the 35. We will remind you, coming up, time permitting after the game, the Subway postgame show. JB, Dan, Shannon, Boomer, and Coach Bill Cowher. Latest NFL scores, highlights, playoff scenarios, you name it, they'll have it. All coming up on the Subway postgame show.
We've had a lot of shots of Phillip Rivers just relegated to the sidelines, watching this Detroit offense move the chains and move the ball up and down the field.
8.5 to play. This is Smith. to about the 40. And again, a little chippiness.
Faster Sherrillis at the end there. It looked like somebody was pulling him out of there, and he lost his balance.
I was going to say, he's 6'7", 325. I'd like to see who pushed him over.
No, he looked like he lost his balance.
I would hope so.
Again, you don't want to see this game dissolve into being real chippy and some cheap shots.
But if you recall, it started that way.
It did start that way before pregame warm-ups. A little altercation in the tunnel between Dominic Raiola and Antoine Barnes of the Chargers.
3rd and 5. Stafford tipped at the line of scrimmage and it falls incomplete.
And here we go again. There's some more. This is getting close to boiling over.
Number 66, Steven Peterman, being called off.
Well, the Detroit offense succeeded in one respect, moving it away from their own goal line.
Patrick Creighton says, let this one drop. And it takes a San Diego roll before it is down at about the 28 of the 29-yard line. 7:18 to play in the fourth. (31-10), 7:18 to play in the fourth quarter, and that is Antonio Garay, and that is some pregame work. Rivers and the Chargers need points, and they need them fast. Going to hand this one off to Tolbert. And Tolbert out to the 35-yard line. This is going to be a really interesting New Year's Day. Take a look at Cincinnati. They'll be home to Baltimore. If the Bengals win, they claim a wild card spot. Take a look at Denver. They're home to Kansas City. If they win, they claim the AFC West.
Keep in mind those game times can change. Very fluid schedule for Week 17 in the NFL.
That pass intended for Randy McMichael incomplete. This game has not had a single turnover by either team in only 10 games this whole season. Went without a turnover. 3rd and 4.
55. Even. We got you to watch the TT.
Rivers for Tolbert. Tolbert tackled short of a first down by Alfonso Smith.
Tolbert picked up about 2 feet on that play. Barely got past the line of scrimmage.
So it'll be 4th and about 3. Under 6.5 to play in the fourth. The Detroit fans to their feet. And they can smell it. Reverse to Malcolm Floyd. Floyd gets the first down and out of bounds just across the 40-yard line. Pushed out by Chris Houston.
Boy, Malcolm Floyd started giving ground there. But again, you see him coming all the way across the formation right there. That is such a difficult pass to defend, and a great job by Phillip Rivers of looking off everyone to the right and then coming back to his crossing pattern that he knew was flashing across from left to right.
Salami!
New set of downs for Rivers and the Chargers at their own 40. Tolbert out of the backfield. Pulls his way to midfield and looks to be right at that first down marker. It'll depend on the spot.
And Phillip Rivers has got to run this thing from the line of scrimmage, which they're now going to start to do.
It'll be 2nd and inches. the hands of Tolan. That'll stop the clock with 5 minutes even.
And the Chargers have had a couple blatant drops here today. And when you fall behind early, you just can't have them. You don't have the margin for error that if you've got a nice lead. Yeah, Vincent Jackson, one of the guys that had a big drop.
Third and 1. Going to give to Ryan Matthews, who gets the first down. But the clock coming up on 4 minutes, 50 seconds. And San Diego uses a timeout. They take a timeout, so do we. 31-10. Detroit.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by Bud Light, the official beer sponsor of the NFL. Here we go. And by Subway Restaurants. Get your own Subway steak melt today.
.4:53 remaining in the fourth quarter. First down, Chargers at the Detroit 45. Rivers, pump fakes. Gonna go deep, far sideline. It is intercepted by Chris Houston. Houston brought one back 100 yards earlier this season. He brings this one back to the 45.
Well, Phillip Rivers this time just trying to get it to Vincent Jackson, who's throwing a straightaway fly pattern. And you know what? You can't blame Rivers. It was underthrown, but he's got to try to make something happen. Under 5 minutes, you're down 31-10. Just a little bit of an underthrow where Chris Houston can make the play on it, but you know, the Detroit secondary just sitting back there, not honoring or jumping on anything short, waiting for the deep ball, and Rivers threw right into it.
And the fans have already begun the celebration. Kevin Smith. It has been a long time.
Well, we mentioned it's been since 1999. And there's a couple of things. Boy, $1.14 a gallon looks pretty good, doesn't it?
Matthew Stafford was all of 11 years old.
And our colleague Steve Berline, how about that? Led the NFL, 4,400 plus that year. Keep in mind, though, that 99 Detroit team that made the playoffs, you know what their record was, Greg? 8-8.
As we dip under 4 minutes to play. Stafford using every second on the play clock before the snap of the ball, and Kevin Smith to about the 47-yard line. And while the Lions prepare to celebrate, the Chargers prepare to play out the string, and of course all of this will lead to even more speculation about the future in San Diego of that man, Norv Turner.
Well,
and he's used to it.
Yeah, he's used to it. And A.J. Smith, the general manager, he's in play as well. We had a nice visit with Dean Spanos before the game, but it's a hugely disappointing year in San Diego. They were a Super Bowl pick by a lot of pundits before the season started. Losing this game isn't what has derailed San Diego. It was going 0-6 in the middle of the season after a 4-1 start.
San Diego uses its second timeout to stop the clock at 3:05. Last week, 17 of the top 20 shows on television had something in common. They were all on one network, only CBS.
Well, as Matthew Stafford told us, it is fun to be in this city now.
And the city that saw their Detroit Tigers go to the postseason.
Well, and they've seen their Red Wings win Stanley Cups. The Pistons have had some great years. Michigan and Michigan State, which are nearby, are both playing good football. It's time the Lions join the party.
Patrick Creighton will let this punt sail, and it bounces inside the 5 and will roll dead at the 2. The fans came here hoping to watch their Lions cement a postseason berth, and that's exactly what they're going to get.
And again, William Clay Ford. This has to be very satisfying to him. Tom Lawan, the general manager, Martin Mayhew, all of this. Tom Lawan, the president, Mayhew, the general manager. This has been a team effort here in Detroit, and young Bill Ford, who day-to-day so involved with this franchise. Congrats to all.
And from day one of this season, much was expected of this team.
Even.
And they've delivered. This is Gates. Gates out just across the 10-yard line. Last 3 games, Matthew Stafford has been absolutely on fire.
Almost 1,000 yards. 9 TDs without a single pick.
Intercepted! Touchdown! Cliff Averill!
And somebody in the stands, they got a piece of Lions history. Yeah, number 90 with the Sioux jersey. You just got a piece of Detroit Lions history. Phillip tried to float it over the top of Cliff Averill and underestimated Averill's ability to climb the ladder and go up and get it.
That first turnover of the day was a doozy, wasn't it?
Yes.
I beg your pardon, second turnover. The Houston interception was the first.
He went a long time without one, and now on back-to-back possessions. There's Averill there on the right, being blocked by Clary. He doesn't even rush. And look at how he gets up there and elevates. You count on that defensive end coming upfield and not being a factor when you're trying to run this screen pass, but Averill read it, fell off, floated out into the lane, and that's just a smart play by a defensive end.
They will have to be aware in the postseason that this Detroit defense can score touchdowns. 7th touchdown of the season scored by this defense. Off fumbles and interceptions.
And I'll tell you what, the defensive line of the Lions today struggled to get to Phillip Rivers, but I'll tell you, their coverage back behind it with the linebackers and the secondary, and a secondary without Delmas, without Carey, without Berry, I thought played a superlative football game in their coverage.
Jason Hansen going to get about a 15-yard start on this kick. And Richard Goodman will run it out. Whoa. Hit hard at the 10 and forward to the 12 by Ashley Palmer.
Well, Detroit has had a lot of defensive touchdowns this year. It started week 4 at Dallas. Bobby Carpenter, a 34-yard interception return for a TD. Then Chris Houston, a 56-yard interception. Okay, then to Denver in week 8, Cliff Averill. He scored a touchdown on a fumble return. And then Chris Houston, the 100-yarder that Greg mentioned. And then Steven Tulloch recovered a ball in the end zone. And then Alfonso Smith got a 30-yarder, and we just saw Cliff Averill. So I'm telling you what now, when you have a defense that can score like this. Gunther Cunningham there must be popping a few buttons over his defensive unit.
Ryan Matthews tied up by number 90. And Ndamukong Suh. And that will take us to the 2-minute warning. Jim Schwartz and his Detroit Lions on their way to the playoffs. Detroit Lions 2 minutes away from the postseason playoff berth, and this is Ryan Matthews out over the 25 to the 26-yard line. Detroit in the lead 38-10, and it figures they will move on to win. They will claim one of the NFC wildcard spots.
You can see the Giants with that win today over the Jets go to 8-7. They're still in it.
And the San Diego Chargers playing out the string, which now has a minute 20 to go. The AFC picture will no longer include the San Diego Chargers. Cincinnati in position to claim a wild card with a win next week against Baltimore. Denver still with a chance to claim the AFC West with a win next week. And it's close to shower time for Jim Schwartz.
Well, Greg, it just doesn't seem possible that we'll let Philip run this play and I'll finish my thought.
This is Matthews, and Matthews run out of bounds.
The San Diego team that we saw Sunday night take apart the Baltimore Ravens, the following week could lay an egg like this. A double bath for Jim Schwartz.
Hey, our executive producers of the NFL on CBS are Sean McManus and Harold Bryant. Today's game produced by Mark Wolf, directed by Bob Fishman. Senior producer of CBS and the NFL Today is Eric Mann. The NFL Today directed by Bob Matina. Coordinating producer of the NFL on CBS, Lance Barrow. The coordinating producer of CBS Sports is Steve Karasik. Associate directors of today's game, Ryan Galvin and Brian Sealing. Our broadcast associates are Brian Jagoda and Brad Chen. Technical director Mike Tiffey and the audio supervisor Kevin Little. Our stats provided by Joe Castellano and Andy Lepusnik, and our spotter Michael Gluck. It is all over here in Detroit. The Lions clinch the playoff berth for a first time in a long time. They are going to stay on the field and salute their fans who have supported them from day one, and they've come through. 38-10. The Lions are going to the playoffs. For Dan Deerdorf and for the rest of our crew here in Detroit, Greg Gumbel saying so long from Ford Field in Detroit. Tonight on CBS, a night of drama and mystery begins with Blue Blood.